Thinking Byzantine here. Today we'll be talking about Microsoft. Now before we get into the stock analysis, I'd like to say that I'm not a financial advisor and this is all my own opinion. Please do your own research before making any investment. Now with that out of the way, let's jump right in. Actually, I'd like to preface to say I know that Microsoft earnings are coming soon, Tuesday if you want to know, but I've wanted to make this video for a while now, so yeah, this information may become outdated within the next few days, but oh well, I'm still gonna make this video. Let's continue on. Now, what do they do? So Microsoft has a cloud and AI focus which focuses on making IT professionals, developers, and their systems more productive and efficient through the development of cloud infrastructures such as servers, databases, CRM, ERP, and more. Also, they do research into AI, and they have LinkedIn, and they have a section dedicated to gaming, like Xbox Live, Xbox, the physical Xbox. I guess they have some video games with, I think they purchased Mojang quite a few years back. Yeah, they purchased Mojang a while ago. And then they have their exclusives. And I guess they also have experience in devices, which is, Microsoft Office, Windows, Enterprise Mobile, and all that other stuff. And now here's their business segments by revenue. Microsoft divides their business into three segments. We have business and business processes, intelligent cloud, and more personal computing. So for productivity in business, they've earned $13.353 billion, intelligent cloud at $14.601 billion, and for more personal computing, they earned $15.122 billion. So based on this little chart that I made here, you can see that their earnings by segment is actually, I want to say the same, but it looks quite close. Let's keep it, I think that's a good way to say it. Their earnings are quite equally divided. Oops. But anyways, here's their business segment by margin. Their margin has actually improved year over year, with their biggest improvement being in intelligent cloud at 16.48%. And let's see, we're going to talk about some key positive trends for each segment, and these could be global trends or moves that Microsoft is making to expand each of their segments. Now we're going to start with productivity and business processes. With the COVID and the shift to working at home, Microsoft products have seen further use and growth. For example, Microsoft consumer subscribers, Microsoft 365 consumer subscribers increased by 10.2 billion year over year from Q2 2020 to Q2 2021. And even LinkedIn has experienced some growth when their revenue grew 23% year over year. And now for intelligent cloud, well, we have Azure, Microsoft's cloud service. It's pretty big. It's growing. It's the second largest cloud provider after Amazon AWS, and currently holds close to around 20% of the market share in a $130 billion industry that is still growing. Another part of this section is AI, and AI is also a rapidly growing industry, as according to Grandview Research, it is set to grow at over 40% till 2027. So to take advantage of these trends, Microsoft seeks to address industry-specific cloud offerings. For this purpose, that's why they bought Nuance, which is a conversational AI company, for its AI cloud healthcare section. And according to Microsoft, the addressable market with this acquisition is $50 billion. Also, another interesting fact to keep in mind that I believe nuanced technology could be used in other industries, which can also bolster the growth potential of this segment. And lastly, but not least, we have more personal computing. So, gaming is a growing industry, as according to Mortal Intelligence, it's going to grow at around 10.5% a year. And to take advantage of this growth in this industry, Microsoft has purchased ZeniMax, which is the parent company of Bethesda, and Bethesda's the company that has made The Elder Scrolls, so Skyrim, the Fallout series, Doom, and etc. And they also have Xbox Game Pass, which I'm not the biggest fan of subscription services, but subscriptions is a very good model as it provides a recurring stream income for Microsoft, so they know what they're getting. Also, they have something called Project Cloud, which is a Stadia rival, and I believe you can test the beta out with Xbox Game Pass, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I've read last time I checked. And next, we have the balance sheet for Microsoft. So we have a current ratio of 2.58%. That's probably changed with the Nuance acquisition. But either way, Microsoft has tons of assets. And I guess most of their liabilities is under long-term debt, and most of their assets looks like to be in total cash equivalents, and short-term investments at around $131 billion. So in any case, this balance sheet looks pretty good, as Microsoft has, if Microsoft were to liquidate, Microsoft has enough assets to cover its liabilities. Risk. Now, Microsoft has some risk, of course, as any other company would, and the three main ones I have highlighted are competition, regulation, and stagnation. Now, as for competition, we're going to first start with their cloud business. So this is one of the fastest growing industries, one of the fastest growing segments, yet it faces a strong competition from other cloud providers, besides the other two I've listed, which is Amazon AWS and Google Cloud. But like I said, there's other cloud services. I believe there's Alibaba's cloud, there's IBM, and I can't think of any others, but there's sure to be more than just those five. Another thing to keep a lookout is that open source alternatives to Microsoft products could pose a future growth challenge, as one example is Linux OS, which is projected to grow at 19.7% according to Fortune Business Insights. And free alternatives are another problem for Microsoft, as they need to constantly overcome this problem by proving that their services that usually come with their products are worth it, like the customer service or their technical services are worth it. Another thing for competition, and this is more addressed to the more personal computing section, is that if you look at these numbers here, you'll see that PlayStation, Switch, which is PlayStation's from Sony and Switch is from Nintendo, have grossly outsold the Xbox One. And now with the next generation of consoles, the Xbox X or the Xbox S versus the PlayStation 5, the PlayStation 5 is still outselling the Xbox X/S, though that this discrepancy 6 million to 4 million instead of as big a gap as 115 million to 50 million. That could probably be attributed to chip shortages and COVID reducing the amount of production that Xbox X or /S's or PlayStation 5s could be produced. Another risk of Microsoft is regulation. I pulled this little paragraph from their Q2 report, and mainly regulation could lead to fines, and fines, of course, would be paid out with cash or short-term assets. So regulation can also hinder acquisitions, and if it gets bad enough, regulation could also potentially break up a company. Like I guess Standard Oil and AT&T are the two biggest examples of a big breakup of a company. And lastly, we have stagnation. Now, this chart may be a bit skewed to the fact that I chose 2000, so we're still in the middle of the dot-com bubble, but as you can see that Microsoft at an evaluated price during a period of high growth and speculation underperformed the general market for the next decade, and even a bit after that as well. And besides stagnation in terms of pricing, there could be stagnation in terms of their growth prospects in their segments, or a major failure in a segment. Let's say that Azure is completely destroyed by AWS in the next year. Azure was one of the main growth segments for Microsoft. I think it's probably their fastest growing segment, and if you take that away from them, Microsoft, of course, suffers. But then again, any company that loses one of their fastest growing or their biggest cash cow suffers. So, like for example, if Coca-Cola, let's say the U.S. bans high fructose corn syrup, or not high fructose corn syrup, but let's say they ban soda in general. Well, then Coca-Cola is taking a huge hit. But like I said, a failure in the business is something you should always keep in mind. Otherwise, you may get a situation where you get a stagnant stock for a long time. And now here's my evaluation of Microsoft based on DCF, or discounted cash flow. And an assumption that I used was I projected 13% free cash flow growth over the next 5 years. And I came up with a fair value for Microsoft at $235.99, which is under its current price. But that the fair value does not account for debt, and when we do account for debt, it lowers the fair value to $213.15, and then with a margin, 5% margin of safety from the fair value with debt, I get a fair price of Microsoft for around $202.49, which is all four of those numbers I have projected out are definitely lower than the current price. So based on DCF, we can say that Microsoft is a bit overvalued. Now here's for my holistic evaluation and final thoughts. I like to flat out say it, I like Microsoft's business. It's easy to understand, it's solid, and it's growing. But as its current evaluation at $261.16, it's about 10.6 or 10.7% overvalued, and that's without taking margin of safety or debt into account. So if I was going to buy this stock, I would probably wait for it to drop down a bit, or perhaps buy it through an alternative means like an ETF, or just not buy much of it to begin with, as it's still very richly valued. But this, of course, could change if, let's say, Microsoft blows up and outperforms every expectation for the next coming earnings. So just keep that in mind that this is for the last earnings. And if you want more information on Microsoft, I'd suggest just reading their upcoming quarterly, or if you're a bit impatient, you can read their current quarterly. So please like and subscribe for more content, and tell me down in the comment section below, what do you think of Microsoft? Do you think it's a buy? Do you think it's overvalued? Do you think it's a terrible stock? Just give me your thoughts, and have a good night.